So a magistrate judge has given the green light for Al Jazeera, the company that's being sued, ironically not by Peyton Manning, by some baseball players, but Al Jazeera has been given the green light here to conduct discovery into whether or not an investigative firm hired by Peyton Manning and his lawyers pressured Charlie Sly into backing away from his claims that he had made on camera, a hidden camera in the Dark Side documentary. So that is the Cliff Notes version. Let us discuss. Now, why should you care about the latest Peyton Manning PED revelation? That's the question. Why should you care about this? And there are multiple reasons why. Now, I've got collateral damage, Space Jam, and Garden Party. And we will tie all of these things together into a nice, neat package. But we begin that this lawsuit will help bring more clarity to the merits of the documentary. Now, I've already planted my flag on the side that I'm on. I buy the documentary. I believe it was 100% credible. And Peyton Manning has his credibility now on trial, which is interesting because he's not the one that is a party to this lawsuit. And so he is not technically a plaintiff. It's Ryan Zimmerman, the old Washington National, and Ryan Howard, former MVP for the Fightin' Phils in professional baseball. They're the ones that filed the federal lawsuit against Al Jazeera because of the allegations made in the documentary. That lawsuit remains active, ongoing, all these years later, which tells you it was not an open and shut case. That if it was an open and shut case, the lawsuit would not be going on. At this date, clearly, there is a lot of gray area involved in that lawsuit. So anyway, why is Peyton Manning being dragged into the middle of all this? Peyton Manning, in this respect, is collateral damage. Because yet, he was not a plaintiff in this case. It is collateral damage. Now, in a prepared statement in 2015, Peyton Manning, just to refresh your memory, he said of the PEDs, it never happened. And the story was complete garbage. Now, it has been long suspected that Peyton cheated to come back from the injury he had sustained with the Colts. In fact, the Colts were so confident Peyton would never play again that Jim Irsay was going around from my moles in the NFL telling anyone that would listen that Peyton will never be able to play again. That's why the Colts had to tank and then get Andrew Luck, because they were not going to have Peyton Manning ever again. Now, the Hollywood Reporter also, a couple years back, they obtained court papers from the lawsuit, which is still ongoing, that claimed that one of Manning's lawyers had already confirmed much of what Charlie Sly had said was accurate. And still, that was not enough to move the needle. The biggest revelation, this comes out of the latest reporting behind a paywall at The Athletic, and they relayed an email that has just recently been unsealed. And I hope you are sitting down for this, because this is explosive. It's going to burn your eardrums up. So the Al Jazeera reporter named Deborah Davies, she wrote to Tom Condon. That's the longtime NFL power broker, longtime agent, according to the story here behind a paywall at The Athletic, and they have the email. So the reporter from Al Jazeera contacts Tom Condon, the agent, and she tells Condon that her source, Charlie Sly, said that Peyton Manning spent $20,000 per month on HGH. He used it up to 20 units a day of HGH, and the reporter suggesting, according to her source, that excessive use of HGH has resulted in bone development in Peyton Manning's forehead. Close quote from the email. Let me repeat that last part. So the new email just unsealed. This is what they didn't want you to see. They didn't want you to hear about. It's now out there, and will anyone listen? Will anyone listen? Manning spent $20,000 a month on HGH. That works out to $240,000 per year. Used up to 20 international units of HGH a day. And Charlie Sly suggesting to the reporter that the excessive use of HGH resulted in bone development in Peyton Manning's forehead, which has become the butt of much jokes. And where have we heard this before? The much maligned Barry Bonds in professional baseball, right? Barry, he became a melonhead And people goofed on Barry Bonds because of his head. And Peyton Manning, people kind of laughed and giggled and chuckled at Peyton Manning. But it's the same concept. It's the same concept. But Peyton he's America's sweetheart. So everyone looks the other way. All right, now part B of this. Charlie Sly, a central actor in this Shakespearean drama. He is a pharmacist, or was a pharmacist, who worked at the clinic in Indianapolis, the Geyer Clinic there, which blocked me on Twitter back in 2015, 2016 when we talked about the story a lot. I don't know why they're blocking me. Anyway, Charlie Sly told Al Jazeera in the documentary that he was on the medical team that helped Peyton Manning recover from the neck surgery that caused him to miss the entire 2011 season. Now, the allegation made by Charlie Sly on camera, hidden camera, the HGH was always mailed to Ashley Manning, never Peyton. Always to Ashley Manning, Peyton's wife, and would never be under his name. Never be under his name. She was I don't know if drug mule is the right term, but she was the intermediary that helped cover the tracks for Peyton. Now, as I understand it, based on what I've heard here, Peyton Manning went Space Jam. He went Space Jam and hired his own goon squad to pressure Charlie Sly to recant his story. And we said this when the story first came out, that it certainly seemed like this is mob-level strong-arm techniques. Now there's more investigation into this, and the evidence, what we have been able to read here, is all about the phone logs. If you ask me what the evidence is. Now, 5 contacts between Charlie Sly and a 317 number that is associated with the CEO of a company that Manning hired to clean up his mess. You bring in professionals. You got a problem. There's a spill on aisle 5. You need to bring in a mop, but if you're a celebrity, you hire one of these firms to come in and mess with whoever's messing with you. There were 117 contacts between Charlie Sly and a 317 number registered to the senior investigator and director of counterintelligence. Peyton Manning hired a firm with a director of counterintelligence. The bullies that Peyton Manning hired. And all this took place from mid-December to early January 2016. There were 96 text messages exchanged between December 24th, Christmas Eve of that year, and December 30th. 96. So let's do the math on that. Now, we've got five calls between the CEO of the company, 117 between the director of counterintelligence. So that, we'll do the math on that we're up to 122. And then we tack on 96 in addition to that. So we are over 200 text phone conversations between Charlie Sly and the thug group that Peyton Manning hired to shake this guy down, allegedly. And that is immediately before and after, interesting to note, Charlie Sly gave his hostage-style video recanting everything he had said freely into a hidden camera. Things that make you go, Now, if this is true, it shows you that Peyton Manning is indeed a two-faced snake. Publicly, he's the swell, golly, gee-whiz pitchman, always laughing and telling jokes on the Manning cast. Privately, he's a cold-blooded assassin. Kind of reminds you in politics, the reputation the Clinton family has, right? Well, the Manning family, the first family of football, and Peyton's had a lot of problems. Eli's had his own problems, and everyone just loves these guys. They eat these guys up on the Manning cast. Eli committed sports memorabilia fraud with the Giants. Peyton had his little incident with the teabag gone bad at Tennessee, and now we've got this. All right, now the last word here. So the Peyton Manning sycophants are going to have a conniption fit over these latest developments. I am prepared. I have my armored suit on. Complete denial of reality, just like the establishment media. Keep in mind, this is one of the biggest stars in American sport who was accused of having PEDs shipped to his house in his wife's name. It was all laid out. You had a pharmacist who had worked around a clinic in Indianapolis who spilled the beans on camera, and the collective media's response was to shrug and deny it and move on. Right? The NFL claimed they found no credible evidence. Kind of reminds you of when Major League Baseball investigated the cheating Astros. And wait a minute, they said there's no credible evidence until until one of the Astros pitchers said, here's how we cheated, and did a tutorial. Mike Fiers, who spilled his guts. But baseball had investigated the Astros, said there was no evidence of them cheating. You think the NFL took a page out of Rob Manfred's playbook on this? But that's all right. Keep your lampshade on. Keep your lampshade on your head. Keep that energy going. Now, Manning lapdogs are socially distancing from the truth. Now, we mentioned already the 2018 story, Manning's own lawyer, according to the court documents confirming the PED story, the latest revelation, the email, the HGH, the growth of the forehead. Then you have the curious case of the garden party. Taylor Teagarden. You probably don't know who that is. He wasn't much of a ball player. He's a former Chicago Cub who played in 2015. That was the last year he played. He was suspended for 80 games by Major League Baseball for violating the drug program. Now, why am I bringing up Taylor Teagarden's name? Teagarden, who also played for the Rangers, the Orioles, and the Mets, he never returned to pro baseball after the punishment. He was not suspended because of a failed drug test. Teagarden was in the documentary very braggadocious about his use of banned substances, including the Delta-2, which was a big part of the documentary, and how he got away with it. The person that led him down the path and was next to him in this condo apartment, wherever they were recording there, Charlie Sly, who was next to him, was chirping away. Now, sure does seem to me to implicate Charlie Sly with a guy that did PEDs, got suspended for it, and doesn't that indirectly incriminate Peyton Manning? So that is the latest on an extra spicy hot story. It's too bad the mainstream sports media will ignore this and will not go into it, but these new revelations are extra juicy. Finger licking good